This this is the Impressions Exchange podcast.
Impressions Exchange podcast,
where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Welcome to the Impressions Exchange podcast. On this episode of the show, I chat with NAPCO Research Principal Analyst Lisa Cross about what to expect in 2025, the annual Commercial Print Industry Trends and Strategy Survey, and of course the hottest topic right now, AI. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Ashley, thanks for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Of course, yeah. Love having you on the show. So, it's the end of the year, December, and we are moving into 2025, which is a great time, I think, to, kind of look back at the past year, look ahead. So maybe you could tell us, what are some things you're looking at right now moving into the new year?
That's an awesome question. If I had all the answers, I'd be a very rich person if my crystal ball was 100% accurate. But as you know, at NAPCO Research, we do surveys all year long across all industry segments, and we even survey print providers' customers because we want to find trends, challenges, opportunities, strategies, investments, and pretty much any topic that can help the industry, advance its profitability and growth. One survey that we do specifically each year is our Commercial Print Industry Trends and Strategy Survey. Anyone listening to the podcast who is taking our survey, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And anyone who would like to take the survey in the future, I think my email will be in the text accompanying this podcast, perhaps. And you could just reach out to me and I'd be happy to send you that questionnaire. But some of the things that we see in our research, and I'm sure, Ashley, these might be things that you see in your ongoing, excellent, fantastic coverage of the printing industry as the content director of Printing Impressions. A lot of times with regard to challenges, and I want to start with challenges. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sometimes, what people do, lots of times stems from the challenges they're facing or the perceptions of the challenges they think they're facing. I'd like to start with the challenges first because challenges are typically, what drives the actions that print providers take. And some of those key challenges that we see in our survey, we saw in our most recent Trends and Strategy survey, was that maintaining profitability is a key challenge today. Hiring staff, whether that be salespeople or production people, and just decreasing use of print, whether that be from the migration of print to electronic media or just organizations wanting to lower the amount of print they produce, whatever the reasons. Those are typically the challenges that we see facing the industry, and some of the other beyond challenges, some of the reasons that organizations, take the actions that they take is they're, looking to improve their operations, automate processes. Some organizations are really looking to pursue that next big thing, whatever that is. And customer experiences. They're really looking to better serve their customer, and there are a number of ways that they're doing that, either offering new services or finding better ways to interact with their customers. So that's kind of, hope that set the stage a little bit for some of the other things that I might tell you about what we actually believe we're going to see in the year ahead.
Right. Yeah. So with the challenges, as a backdrop, you said, to this conversation and knowing what the industry is facing, how does that play into the growth that companies are seeing? What are those growth leaders doing differently? What are they, investing in or doing?
Sure. So what we see, those organizations that are leading in sales growth, some of the things they're doing include expanding into new service areas. So maybe they're adding creative or data or mailing or fulfillment or some other value-added services or marketing services. So they're expanding their services. And that's going to continue because in our survey, we asked about expectations in the next 12 to 24 months, and print providers told us that they did expect to continue to expand their offerings. And these were sales growth leaders. So we have an expansion into new services and a continuation of that in the coming year. We also found that organizations are still moving into new print segments. That's one of our mantras around here at the Printing United Alliance, which NAPCO Research is a part of, is convergence.
Yep.
Love the word, near and dear to our heart. But still occurring where, print providers, are moving into adjacent print segments for various reasons. Lots of benefits in moving into a new segment. Moving into new segments as a way to grow sales, meet new customer demands, increase what we would call customer stickiness. So the customer is going to stay with you longer and not go to a competitor over pennies on a piece, and just to diversify revenue streams. I think after COVID-19, most players in the industry, really recognize the value of having a diversified revenue stream. Also important is investments in technology innovation, whatever those investments are based on your company. But our growth leaders, where they tend to aim that investment arrow, tends to be around things that improve automation, increase efficiency, and things that are going to make them, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, to improve their customers' experiences in working with them. And one thing that always comes top of mind for me with that is, online ordering or web to print systems, making it easier for customers to engage with you and to order their print and to manage their print spending internally.
So it's really interesting that those are the things that you've been noticing, just because, as you know, we do the printing impressions 300 list every year, which we just finished that up in our December issue. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. It's a year-long effort. So, part of that is we also highlight what we call the fast track companies. 5 to 7 companies every year that have experienced significant growth, and we talk to them to find out, what are you doing differently, or what do you think sets your company apart that allowed for this growth. And a lot of the things that we saw this year when talking with them: investment in technology, automation technology, to, as you said earlier, addressing those labor challenges. Actually, in particular, one of the companies noted their focus on customer experience, that they attribute their growth to really focusing on what the customer needs and meeting those demands through investments in technology or, software, hardware, whatever it is that they needed. Investments in different types of certification to make their company more secure, or, to be able to give their customers the assurance that their data is secure. Those are the types of things that we saw, and it kind of sounds like it aligns with what you have seen.
Certainly aligns, Ashley. And congratulations on finishing that. No small task. And I love that list. You do an awesome job on that. And I love the fast track companies you guys profile every year. Anyone listening to this, I highly recommend that you read them when they come out. When does that come out? In January, usually?
Yeah, so it's the December issue. So probably for anyone listening, it'll probably be in your mailboxes around the holidays, into January. And we'll also have it online as an asset that you can download. So, and I can include a link to that. But yes, definitely valuable to go through, even if, reading the profiles of the fast track companies to kind of see what your peers are doing is very valuable. And of course, going through the list. And we show, for anyone who's looked at it before, where a company, if they responded in previous years. So if they responded last year, we show where they were last year and what their fiscal sales number was the previous year compared to this year. And some of the companies on this list are experiencing, 20, 30, 40, even 60% growth due to some of the strategic decisions that they've made through acquisitions or investment in technology, things like that. So Really interesting.
That's fantastic. And to answer your initial question to me
Yeah.
before I flipped it back on you, is that yeah, our data aligns with all the things that you just said, and I could throw out a couple of numbers if you want. I could do a data wrap, or maybe the audience is like, no numbers. We need a slide from you, Lisa. But
No,
how do
yes,
I?
numbers.
No slides in a podcast. But I guess, in terms of a I call it the data rap, but hey, I'm no I can't even name a rapper. I'm so sad. Eminem, he's a rapper, right? I don't know. Snoop Dogg, he's in the news lately.
Yeah, there you
Okay, so
go.
okay, I'll channel my inner Snoop Dogg if that's even possible for me. But in terms of automation, right? Because like I think it was about 67% of our respondent base was having challenges finding workers. And that's one of the reasons people automate, not all of them. But we did find in our research that those organizations that experienced sales growth, 84% of them were taking an action to automate their workflow in some fashion. And
Wow.
67% reported that they were retooling operations to increase automation and productivity because they were really looking to eliminate manual tasks, increase productivity, reduce waste, and all of those things are, part of that profitability equation. What is profits? It's revenue minus expenses. So they're always, looking to grow the revenue side, but keen focus on keeping costs down.
Mhm.
So, working on ways to making investments to automate workflows, improve efficiencies. There are also, I talked about service expansion. So the data here, 76% said they are expanding services, and 70% expect that to continue in the next 12 to 24 months. And why that's important is because we also survey buyers. And 75% of print buyers in our most recent survey told us they want to work with print providers that offer them full services. They're looking to consolidate suppliers, looking to consolidate suppliers because it's a lot easier sometimes to work with it is easier to work sometimes with a limited number of suppliers. Another thing that I want to talk about that I think is something that I'm not sure gets a lot of exposure in the industry, and that's in terms of devoting resources to sales and marketing efforts. And I'm talking, beyond investing in, promotion and content, actually investing in your sales process. And interestingly, what we found in our survey is that growth leaders, 72% indicated their company followed a clear and consistent sales process. Um, and that would make sense to me that you would want to have a clear and consistent sales process in your organization where everyone was on the same page and knew what was expected and knew how to accomplish the goals and tasks and actually knew what those were. So I would share that with your audience that was a key amongst those that reported sales growth. Uh, and another thing, um, the magic words or the buzzword today or the trend that's really getting a lot of attention, artificial intelligence,
Right.
AI. And what we saw in our data is that those firms that were experiencing growth had a higher incidence of using AI today or planning to use it in the near future compared to those whose sales were flat or declining. And some of the ways that they were using it were in ways that you see a lot of people using generative AI today, content creation, but the top areas were primarily marketing and customer analytics, really trying to create and evaluate marketing programs, and determine who was the right segment for them to target, and really, looking at customer analytics and how they were serving their customers, what were the requests, what were their customers' preferences, really looking to enhance that customer experience that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and
So I hope I did a good job on that data app there.
yes, I loved it. I
Thank you.
loved it. Just like Snoop Dogg. So it's interesting that you mentioned the AI portion. We've been talking about it a lot. As you said, it's kind of a buzzword right now. People are really interested in it. And I know NAPCO Research just did the AI report. And I actually just did an additional podcast with Steve Metcalf of Imagine AI Live, which I can link to in the description. But one of the things that we talked about is, there's a lot of hesitation around AI, but I think something that's a little evident to me is that the companies that are willing to invest in it, willing to try it, maybe tend to be a little more forward thinking in that way. So it makes sense to me that a lot of those companies that you've seen experiencing growth are the ones that are either willing to explore AI or have already invested in it. And just a little anecdotal thing, I did speak with a PSP this year who, he mentioned he was running this company. It was a small print service provider, and he was kind of a team of one. He doing all of the sales and the marketing, and he was like, I really do all of it. And so I'm using AI too, as you said, content generation. So their landing page copy, content on their website. And he was using AI to create that. And that's a great way, especially again, going back to labor challenges, finding people to fill roles, not just on the press floor, but on your marketing team or your sales team, actually being able to do more with less people, fewer people.
Well, yeah, and one thing, historically, print providers, have been said, oh, they're not marketers, they're not good at marketing. Well, that's certainly not the case today, but I've heard that so many times in my career. I have disputed it, but I know whether someone is good or bad. I know it's a challenge. It's
Right.
time consuming. A lot of people don't have the time or the resources to do a lot of things that are required. So that's where AI can help in, and why a lot of companies, are looking at it. And as far as like industry leaders, I mean, something you said about those that are willing to look at it and invest and pursue new opportunities. That is a characteristic, I think, of any, leading firm, that they're willing to take risks and willing to investigate. And willing to be proactive in the destiny and success of their organization. So I think there's a lot to be said with that. And another thing on AI, we just did a webinar on it, and I would encourage people that are listening, if they haven't heard the webinar, to listen to it, because in the beginning of it, our speaker really laid the framework for, AI and what's new, it's not, and what's not, because a lot of people might not realize that there have been AI applications in the printing industry, for at least 10 years or even longer. So it helps to clarify, different levels of AI. But the key thing that's really pushing things today is generative AI tools like Chat GPT, the ability for AI to process natural language so you can talk to your computer and tell it what you want to do. You don't have to be a coder, right? So how many things can people do now that they just couldn't do before? And we are starting to hear lots of stories.
And even another example that I use is creating social media posts. So if you are even if you're a large print service provider, but I was going to say if you're a small PSP, team of one type of situation, and you want to get your work out on, Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook even, and promote yourself, but you're not the social media is not your forte. Use AI. See if you can create a post, give it the parameters. As I talked about with Steve in the recent podcast, prompting is key. Being able to, put in a prompt that's going to give you what you're looking for, but it can write you a great social media post. And I have done that in my, life as a journalist, where it's not, I'm on social media all the time, but it's not necessarily my strong suit. So I'll put an article in and ask it to create a LinkedIn post and then tweak it so it's in my the way I would speak or the way I would write it, but at least it gives you a jumping off point. And so, there are ways that you can use it to definitely for marketing
Yeah.
of your company.
And even on that data analytics, portion, to really understand your customer base and your risks and how you should move forward. And another thing, you talked about prompts, a new what's the word, thing to know
Yeah.
today, writing AI prompts. There's just, it made me think that there's a lot of there's many resources out there to learn about AI. Whether you want to read about it, find it online, go to a conference, listen to a podcast, lots of tools out there to support anybody in their endeavors about, learning how to use AI and how to harness it.
Right.
But that was another thing we saw in our research. Just a higher incidence of sales growth leaders in investigating use of AI.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, that seems it's not surprising to me, is what I'm trying to say. So is there anything else that you would want to call out, moving into 2025 that you think our listeners should be thinking about?
Lots of times when I think about the year ahead and what organizations should do, I kind of think that, there are just three things that your organization should always be, focusing on. Customers, what's your next technology investment? Because technology is always changing. And focusing, on growth and profitability. Those are the three things, I mean, big picture things that I think of. And then within them are things like, there's so many ways you can go with this. It's, so another thing I think about in terms of achieving some of the tools available to do that, to know what's the best way to address your customer needs, what should be the right technology investments, how do I make my company more profitable. I think there are a lot of specialized printing industry resources that we offer at the Printing United Alliance. Some of the research that NAPCO Research and the team do, some of the things coming out of the Printing United Alliance, economics and forecasting team, all the coverage that you do at Printing Impressions. And anyone who's a member of the Alliance, I don't know if you're aware of the great resources in the Alliance to help you in your business in 2025, from our environmental team to our HR experts to our government affairs unit, because all those things, when you think about the year ahead, I mean, you have to operate your company with an eye on legislation and regulatory concerns and human resource concerns, and we have a great arsenal of experts to support that.
Right. Yeah. And
How
I
was
can,
that commercial?
yeah, no, I loved the commercials. Great. It's perfect. I'll include links to all of that in the description, but I also want to direct listeners to we mentioned the December issue, which should be, if it isn't already in your hands, listeners, it will be soon. NAPCO Research, specifically you, Lisa, are fantastic in providing us our final impressions, which is the back page of the magazine. And in the December issue, we talk about some of the things that we talked about today. You provided some of that data, which is really great. So I do encourage listeners to check that out.
Yeah, and one thing, we always advise people, when you're making any decision for your business, do your diligence, reach out to any expert that you would need to give you any clarity on what you're about to embark, because the margin for error today in making a mistake, it continues to shrink. So you want your decisions to be based on the best available data and insight and resources. But for the year ahead, there's it's bright, and there's plenty, of opportunity for print providers. That's what our economics team is telling us. So, and we agree.
I believe it. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to us about this.
Thanks, Ashley.
I want to thank Lisa for joining me on today's episode. I will include links in the description for more information about the topics we discussed today. I also want to thank all of you, our listeners. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Impressions Exchange podcast, coming to you in 2025.